You're listening to the Christian Indie Artists and Songwriters Podcast, the place where faith, music, and life intersect. We exist to help Christian indie artists and songwriters just like you get songs heard. Hey, I'm here with my friend Olivia Lane, coming to us live from Nashville, Tennessee. How's it going this morning, Olivia?
I'm so good. It's a beautiful day here, and I'm coming up on some vacation, so I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, vacation is the best, right?
Yes, we're finally getting to spring, summer. We've rounded the corner. 2021, things are starting to kind of open up, so it's exciting.
Well, like we were saying before, I actually came across your TikTok and saw that you're doing some great content, so I definitely want to get into all that as we go. But, let's start at the beginning. Where did you get into music in the first place? Where did it all start for you?
Yeah, well, so my mom was actually a Texas regional country singer. I'm from Houston, Texas, and she comes from a musical family. I mean, my grandmother and my aunt, my mom's whole family, they just are so musical. And on my dad's side too, we've got a couple dancers. So I think it was in my blood to just be a creative type. But really my mom, when she was a young 20-year-old, she pursued music. She was in a bunch of different bands around Texas, and her and my dad actually met in high school, and then they broke up for a little bit, and then they got back together when she was kind of in the thick of her career. So my dad actually saw a lot of what she went through. They got married super young, came to Nashville, did the whole thing. So I feel like both of them really, when I started showing interest in being this musical kid, they were like, oh my goodness, we've seen this, we know this path. And they just equipped me with all of the music. There was always music playing in the house. I mean, my mom made sure that I was listening to all the greats like Carole King, Frank Sinatra, Aretha Franklin, Reba. Like, she just made sure that I was listening to really great music all the time. And slowly but surely, when I was old enough, like, it was karaoke places and it was the studio. She would let me go to the studio with her, or she would just she really guided me through this musical journey of accepting that I loved music and there was a path for me to do that. But I also was a very theatrical kid. I did a lot of theater, so I loved musical theater. I started playing guitar when I was in 8th grade and kind of dabbled in it a little bit, but became more serious when I was about 16. And yeah, I mean, it kind of took off in so many different directions as a creative. I feel like a lot of creatives, we like to do a lot of artistic things. It's not just songwriting or singing or theater. It's all of it. So yeah, I just was like a musical explosion as a child. And my sister got everything else. She's like super smart, all the brains, like to read a lot of books. I was like the performance, look at me, singer girl.
Hey, well, it sounds like it was totally Brit, and I love that your parents had that experience, because a lot of in a lot of situations is like, parents are in the whatever engineering route. They're like, music, isn't that something you just do for fun on the side?
Yeah.
But your parents had a legit way, and I love that they're like exposing you intentionally to the greats, like you said. It's not so that way it was built into your DNA. I mean, I think about that with my kids too. Like, whatever they're listening to now will be those songs that I think about from my childhood. So I try to carefully consider that. I mean, not overly, but so I love that your parents kind of did that for you. And then, before we started talking, from Texas is where you kind of cut your teeth and started doing that, but then to LA, which is like, a huge music haven, and now Nashville. So what brought you to LA? Was it a family move, or you mentioned school as well? So what got you over that way?
Yeah, well, it was a family move, but it was because I begged for about 6 months to move to Los Angeles. I was growing up in the time where I saw girls like Selena Gomez, Demi Lovato, all of these girls from Texas moving to Los Angeles and being on the Disney Channel. Like, that's what I was like, that's where we got to go. We got to go to LA. And at the time, I thought I really wanted to do acting because I was super into musical theater, and I didn't really know being a songwriter was a trajectory yet. And thank goodness Taylor Swift came along, because when she started popping, I was like, wait, as a young person, you can move to Nashville and make this happen for yourself. So LA was the first path that really illuminated for me and made sense to me. And I look back on that and I'm just like, I was comfortable, and I was like a 15-year-old sophomore. Like, why would I just uproot my entire life and move to Los Angeles? But I was just such a big dreamer that I just couldn't see myself staying in Houston, because I was like, well, I mean, I've done commercials, I've done theater, I'm getting good parts. Like I got to be in the big leagues, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I begged my parents, my mom went with me, and then my dad went back and forth. And again, a testament to how much they believed in me, because that is a crazy thing for a whole family to be uprooted from a place that they're super comfortable in and to help their daughter achieve their dreams. It's just wild. But so got to Los Angeles, did 2 years of high school out there, which was amazing. I met some amazing friends, and the stakes were raised. Like I thought I was coming in with all this talent, and those 6 to 7 years out there was like a bunch of failure. Like it was just horrible audition after horrible audition, and just so many mistakes made just in my personal life, in my career, just learning the hard way. That's honestly all I can amount to it. It was just learning the hard way. I was not ready. I got an agent and I just totally bombed so many auditions. It was so soul sucking, to be honest. And when I went to college out there at USC, I was going after a songwriting minor, and I was a theater major and a songwriting minor, and my whole life just totally, my sophomore year of college, it all just shifted because I started taking guitar super seriously. I'd written a couple songs. Obviously, they were trash because I hadn't written that many songs, but the songs were good enough to know that I might have something here. There was enough to work with for me to be like, oh, wait a minute, I could go to Nashville. And so honestly, like I did the exact same thing. I was just like, I've got to go to Nashville. I'm done with LA. And my parents just, of course, having whiplash, but obviously not surprised. They're like, okay, she's got to go to Nashville. So I had a change of heart from acting to from acting to songwriting. And that was a pretty big shift for me in 2013, from going from playing parts to figuring out who I was. And then I just went on this journey of figuring out who I truly was and rediscovered God. And man, my whole life changed when I got to Nashville. It's crazy.
Wow. So 2013. So I saw on Spotify, at least, it looked like you started releasing music in 2015. So that 2-year period of Nashville. So what was that like from going? Because that's a major shift from like playing parts to learning how to play parts and write parts and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Totally different side of your brain. But too, because of all those music that was pumped into you through your whole life, you had that there, and of course that's a God-given thing to where, you can write a song and be like, oh, good, keep it up. But like you said, you knew there was something there to develop and chase. So what was that journey like first 2 years in Nashville until you started putting stuff out there?
Yeah. Oh man. I'm trying to figure out where to start. Well, it was a lot of trial and error and a lot of co-writing. I hadn't done a lot of co-writing. And I had to get used to that, which was, again, as a young writer, you're trying to find your voice, but you're also trying to listen as well. Like you're trying to figure out, how much of me do I put out here? How much of me is too much? I feel like I spent a lot of my life being a lot of energy, a lot of too much. Like, oh my goodness, you're just way too much. And so when I was in the Nashville writing room, it was almost like I had to figure out who I could trust. As a co-writer, you're always looking for people that understand your brain, who get you. And man, there was it was just a lot of failure, but a lot of valuable learning lessons along the way through that failure. I mean, I had a guy once I had a manager at the time, and they were like, you need to tell your artist to just be quiet. Like she just doesn't, like you need to tell her to shut up, essentially. And I was just like, and who would tell an artist to do that? Like if an artist has a vision, who would do that? Like that's just so mean. But it's just little things like that and experiences like that shape you and form you and add fuel to your fire. Because at the end of the day, I obviously can't shut up because I'm the artist. And like, why are we here if I'm not the artist trying to figure out what my clear vision is on what to say?
Right.
I mean, can you imagine somebody telling Taylor? I mean, sure, so many people told Taylor Swift, like, you just need to shut up. Like, no one cares about your voice. And she was like, nope, screw that. I'm just going to find people who understand my brain. but you go through all of those things as an artist. You're just you're bumping your head on coffee table corners, just trying to grow and learn. You're like this infant. So it was a trial and error period. And I feel like I was blessed with some people who took me under their wing and helped me write some pretty great songs. And the songs were good enough to take on the road. So I got on the road as soon as I could. I did an independent radio tour, which ended up being an interesting time. And, it just kind of led me to actually a breaking point that made me become an even better artist. So I think when I first got to Nashville, I was chasing what everyone else was doing. And essentially that broke me. I was chasing what this person was doing or what this girl was doing or what people were saying about this girl was working. So I was trying to chase what was working. And I just put myself in a box when I should not have done that. But of course, those things always lead you to an even greater renaissance, like it leads you to a place where you just hit a wall and you're like, I've been chasing something that's not me for so long. I think it's time to get to know who I am actually as a person.
Yeah. I mean, something that almost every episode that we've done, people talk about, the comparison game, the imposter syndrome thing. So it sounded like you basically slammed straight into that, So as much as you're willing to go into that, like what are some things that kind of, for one, help you recognize that, wow, I don't want to chase somebody else's dream. And two, how did you kind of regroup from that? Because the thing is like you said, in LA, like you did a lot of things, experienced a lot of failure, but like, I don't know what failure is. To me, failure is abstract. It's just like a change of direction. It's not really like you're not dying, you just, that didn't work. So it's like, whatever, but you got a super concentrated thing because you went to the biggest, you went from Texas, which is a great music town, but you went to LA, which is like the biggest pond there is, LA, New York, and Nashville. You've lived in both of those now, experienced a lot in a short period of time, relatively speaking. So when you hit that wall, your breaking point there, how did you recognize that? And then two, like, what did you do to pick up the pieces to start kind of going on your own path?
Yeah, well, I fell victim to, if you don't deal with what's going on inside, it's going to manifest physically.
Yeah.
It will.
Yeah.
And I'm a testament to that because I was going so hard. 3 to 4 hours of sleep a night, sleeping in vans, driving from town to town, playing for nobody in the middle of West Virginia, like literally the most soul-sucking types of shows and paying my dues, cutting my teeth, whatever you want to say. As a young 20-year-old woman, feeling like I was kind of just floating out there on my own, I think it was important for me, but I also got to the point where I started losing my voice. And simultaneously at the same time, I was like, what am I doing with my life? Like it's been 2 years of playing to nobody. It's been, it's like the highest of highs. Some days you get those playing for 9,000 people. And then the next day you're literally playing for the waiter in the bar back. It's like the most highs of highs and lows of lows you can possibly imagine. And barely breaking even, like, trying to get this career going and not being successful at it after a while, financially, however the world, makes you feel like, but I had to make money, like I had to figure out something for myself. And, I just remember being in rehearsal and I like went for this high note and it wasn't there. And then that happened again and again. And it's like little chinks off my vocal cords just started to disappear. And that was pretty terrifying. So I basically had to tell my entire team, guys, like, I can't keep going. Like, I got to stop. And that's also like, at that point, I had to make a business decision, which sucked as a 24-5-year-old woman having to like take people off the payroll because I wasn't going to be making any money and I had to take care of myself. And then I remember being out at a bar and I remember I started getting weird around people. Like I had never felt out of my body. Like why does no one want to talk about what I want to talk about? Or why do I feel weird around people? So then I was like, okay, So if I'm going to go to vocal therapy, why don't I just try everything? I tried acupuncture. Every tarot cards. I tried everything, like just crazy things. But really the winning combo for me was vocal therapy and then just regular therapy. I realized there was a lot in my past that I needed to fix. There was a lot of unhealthy places I was living from and acting from.
Hmm.
And really, like, it just like was logically figuring out, oh, I react to things like that because of this past experience. That's incorrect, and I need to fix that. I had a lot of mental scripts, negative mental scripts. I mean, it was like I didn't realize how mean I was being to myself, like waking up, telling myself I'm ugly, telling myself I'm not talented, telling myself because I don't know, I didn't know why at the time. But then as I started doing a lot of deep therapy, I realized a lot went back to my childhood. And we all have our wounds. We all have our traumas. We all have our places that we act from that are unhealthy, because we live in a broken world. We live in a flawed world. And as I was doing vocal therapy and mental therapy, basically, those two together, I mean, it led me down a path that I found God. And and it's interesting. Sometimes I tell people like, "Oh, I found God again." I was raised Methodist, but I never understood that you could actually have a relationship with God. So I don't think I ever was by the book on paper I was a Christian, but I don't ever think I was a Christian.
Yeah.
Because I never really understood what God was, you know. And then I moved to LA, and the wheels fell off the wagon, and I definitely was an atheist out there. But I met the real God. You know, like my therapist basically was like, your atheism is getting in the way of more healing for you. You need to figure out what your spiritual life is, because that's a healthy human, a spiritual bubble, emotional, logical, and physical. And I got to a point where I was like doing pretty good on the logical, emotional, and physical, but my spiritual bubble was non-existent. And she pushed me for a long time, and I said no. And then finally I bit the bullet, and I was like, fine, I'll just figure this out for myself. Maybe it's just the universe, or maybe it's, I don't know. And as I was doing my research, I just kept coming back to Jesus, and I had a crazy visual encounter with Jesus. And from that day on, I could not believe anymore. So
Wow.
that was pretty wild.
Yeah.
And it changed the trajectory of my career. I mean, it completely flattened. It just, yeah. I mean, I basically had to rebuild from that point on.
Wow. Well, thanks for sharing all that, because I know that's some deep stuff,
Yeah.
But
I'm a deep well. I love getting deep. People need to like cut me off. They're just like, okay, Olivia, it's too much. I'm like,
I love it. I appreciate the honesty and vulnerability, because I mean, that's real life, like you went to these places where you were able to act your way through it. And of course,
Yep.
I'm sure a part of being a good actress is being able to compartmentalize, obviously. And so since you were great at that as a kid, that was probably your go-to, and that got you through a lot of things. But then, like you said, you had that moment at the bar where you're like, why is everything so weird? And that was probably a panic attack, is what I would imagine, because I definitely deal with those things quite a bit myself. So I understand that. And even vocally, like I went through an extremely stressful period, and all of a sudden when I'd sing, my voice would crack or whatever. And it's like, dude, I do vocal warm-ups every single day. Like, what's happening now? So you lose your confidence, and then you're thinking about, okay, when I go to hit that note, it's not going to be there. So might as well not try it. And then it keeps going, like you said, down the scale. Next thing you know, you lose confidence in the thing that you love, and you feel like you're just spiraling. You're like, what's happening? So then it goes deeper and deeper. So I totally understand that process, and so I feel that. And I know a lot of people feel that too. They just maybe have never said it or don't know what that is. So I love that you're able to articulate that in such a clear way, so, but then Jesus. But then Jesus. So then that obviously, you're releasing music in 2015. You're probably going through all of that during that period, or what was that like?
2015. So I had my encounter with Jesus in 2018. So all the way from 13 to 2018. Like there was I think I had some God in my songs, but it was like, people sing about God in country music, so let's put it in there. Like it was, again, playing the part. I was really good at playing the part.
Yeah.
And it destroyed me. Like it was the fake. It was the trying to be something that I wasn't, and doing it from a very inauthentic place that ultimately like destroyed me. But I think now looking back on my life and how my heart was so hardened to God, his hand was so in my life, even when I didn't want to believe in him. Like he was so there. And I'm so glad I got to a point. I'm so glad I got to a breaking point. Like, I'm so glad he allowed for my voice to go away. I'm so glad that he did that, because it was such a refining, goodness, like 2 or 3 years, because it changed the trajectory of my music. It made me go deeper. It made me push myself to really figure out who I was, and really ultimately what he wanted me to be, who he wanted me to be, because I was just so done playing the part. I was so done. It was too exhausting.
Wow. Yeah. That's so good. And that's where the real songs come from,
Yes.
but also too, like, not just like brushing off the prior 20 plus years. I mean, all of that is a part of what you're doing now, of course, but like when you can articulate through song those real experiences and those legit encounters, not just what sounds right, or not what could be cool, like then you don't even care, because you just feel like you have to get this message out there, because that's what you're here to do. And then people resonate with it because it's real,
Right.
So with 2018, did you start releasing like faith-based songs or writing, or like, what was that like?
No. What's really interesting is I thought it was just going to be like, God is in my life and he's with me. I kind of, again, as a still a new believer, I was lucky because I was instantly discipled as soon as I was saved. I mean, I got into like 3 or 4 Bible studies that I'm still in. I had people around. I mean, God was putting people in my life. My vocal coach, meeting Steve Fee, the producer of Woman at the Well. I mean, I met him on Songland, and it was just God's hand. I mean, he did not waste any time. God just like wanted to deliver. He wants to give, and he wants to give abundantly. And like, he just took people from my life and re-injected my life with people that I needed to be discipled by. And my first song that I put out, I would categorize, was You Got Me. And that song is still my biggest song. That song has, has taken me all over the world. And I'm so blessed that was kind of the first song that, I had the word prayer or pray, and then faith, and like all of these kind of little nuances of a spiritual life started to trickle into my music. And after seeing that kind of first initial taste of a song going beyond just me pushing it, like it took a life of its own. I was like, I want more of that. I want more of that. And I want more of that truthfulness and more of that. I don't know. It's like a feeling that you see when you see a song explode that's so beyond you. And the next one was Hey 3 a.m. And that was a song that I felt so vulnerable, like writing. I mean, it was just, but again, it was that, like you said, that fire of like, I have to get this message out. Like, I know people are struggling, and I have to get this message out because I needed it. I know someone else needs it. And it just, those moments became like the setting the bar for what my songs needed to be. Like it had to either have that kind of deep, universal, healing something flavor that I kept uncovering on my EP, The One. And then all of that came out in 2019, and then like after that, I was trying to figure out like what my what I was going to say next, because I hadn't really talked about my spiritual walk because I was in the thick of it. I mean, I was just like,
Yeah.
God was working and shaping and shifting, and I was kind of overwhelmed. Like, I was just like, oh my goodness, like, what is happening, God? You're like taking so many people out of my life, and I'm just trying to figure out who you are and what's happening.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like trying to figure out if I was needed to be part of a church. Like I knew nothing. I mean, like other than memorizing John 3:16, which was like, what
Yeah.
we had to do for confirmation. I knew nothing about God or any, like I was just like, whatever.
Yeah.
So it was just like a renaissance of learning, but it was a really tough time because I was loving the art I was making, but my personal life was a mess because it was just like, I was lonely. Like I truly resonated with sometimes God takes people out of your life and puts you in a season of loneliness, so you'll depend on Him, and that's exactly what happened for me. And I'm so glad. Again, I'm glad He did it, but it was a tough time. But it led me to 2020, the pandemic hits, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're all trying to reason what is going on in the world.
Everything's fine, but it's not.
Everything's falling apart, but we're fine. It's fine. But I just got closer to God. Like during 2020, it just was I'm so grateful because I finally got to the point where I feel like I had let God into all the aspects of my life except my music. And I was like, okay, God, you've delivered on so many different things in my life, and I've seen your hand working. I'm ready to just give you my career. I don't care. I literally got to the point where I was like, I don't care if I'm even supposed to be in music anymore. Like, just tell me what I'm supposed to do, because your plan is so much better than anything that I could ever think up for me. And I was like, even if it's like an engineer, I don't care. And I was like, I hope it's not an engineer, because like literally I'd be terrible at that. But just please let it be music, because I'm really good at it. And I want to be better at it. But anyway, so luckily it was still music. But then I just begged Him to come and prayed. I mean, I prayed every day during the pandemic for Him to come into my music and into my career. And slowly but surely, he put people in my life. He put songs in my mind. He gave me ideas, and that's how Woman at the Well and my song I Let the Devil In. Like, I wrote I Let the Devil in June of 2020, and then Woman at the Well was September 2020.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, time to start talking about Jesus. Let's go.
Here we come.
Here we come.
But I love it though. Like, it's this slow, a couple things. I mean, you said so much great stuff there, the surrender process, but also the pruning process, pruning it's literally like the cutting off of dead things, which,
yes.
We like to decorate ourselves with pretty stuff, like we love these cool relationships we have or these cool experiences we had. But a lot of times those are literally weighing us down from moving into where God's calling us. So when we cut off those things, it hurts, but also it creates space for new growth, and like you said, you started putting out music once you're having this personal revelation, and then stuff starts going further than you could ever imagine. But I love it. It's like, because God is like ahead of us. I love it. Like, I forget what scriptures. I'm not the best at memorizing scripture either, but He's plowing the field ahead of us that we don't even know about yet. So He's getting your music out to the masses in a way you've never experienced, creating this great channel for when Women in the Well and I Let the Devil In starts to drop, because those people are ready and hungry for new things. And you're able to share this new message of hope that's kind of happening for you in real time, which honestly is like the best time to share, because you don't have it all figured out. It's not like, well, this is what you do and then your life is amazing. It's like, no, this is what's happening to me right now. It's freaking me out, but here we go, Right. So like it connects, right?
Yes, it's the transparency. And that was something that I did not do early on in my career, because I'd gotten by enough, like I didn't have to be fully authentic. I didn't have to be transparent. I just had to perform. And when I started letting go of the characters and the boxes I'd put myself in for so long, the freedom, but freedom, comes at a cost. You got to work for it. You got to work to get back to that place in you that God created you to be when you like, were a little kid. It's like so crazy that the world takes a hold of you and you go down this path and you lose yourself and you find yourself. And it's such a blessing that if you really lean into it, if you lean into the process, it's such a gift on the other side, but you're right. It's the pruning and the seeds are, I don't even know what God is planning for me 5 years from now. It's like, I just am trying to, he just wants us to take the next right step. It's like, Lord, just be the lamp to my feet and just guide my step by step. And I will let you take care of the long term, what have you, because you've got my plan all figured out. And just, I pray that you give me discernment to know the right doors to walk through. And, but yeah, it's like looking back to 2015, had I waited to put out music until now, where it's like, I feel like I'm in my zone, that would have been the wrong move. Like I tell a lot of young artists, like, just put something out there and see what happens, because you're going to either make a mistake, or you'll fail, or it'll be great. Regardless, you're going to learn something about you, and you're going to learn something about your career and what you actually want to do. So if you're proud of it right now in the moment and you're doing the best you can, put it out there and see what happens. Because if I didn't start in 2015, I would not have gotten to this clarity, and I would not have gotten to the place where I finally feel like the music is right and the roots are right. And it's even like talking about my journey on TikTok. Like, I was not comfortable doing that until like recently. It's like I've gotten to this point where I'm so refined by being super transparent about my story, probably almost to a fault, but it's like, that's what people want to see. Like, they want to see the nitty gritty. They don't want to see just the facade anymore. We're past that. We're past the mystery of all of that. So, and people are just struggling. That's really what it is. Like, especially with the pandemic, like, people are just hungry for meaning and purpose. And because I know I was, like, throughout my whole life, and I looked for it in all the wrong things. I looked for it in drinking and men and drugs and all the things we all look for meaning for in, it's just, and luckily came back to the true meaning, the true GOAT, Jesus Christ. But I'm just,
I love that. And, it's because people crave authenticity, because it's something to connect with, because they know, like, we're all looking. It's funny because, like, through social media, it can be so, like, alone, like you sitting in a room with your phone or staring into a ring light or whatever the heck we're doing these days. But, like, people are craving, I mean, we love to laugh, we love to go through the TikTok feed and see hilarious things, of course, the entertainment value, but also the things that hit and get massive views sometimes are things that people are like, hey, like, that encourages me, or hey, I'm going through that, I'm sad too because of that. It's real things. So definitely wanted to talk about, like, how have you brought, and like you said, it's kind of a newer thing for you, but, like, into the TikTok world or social media landscape, like, how have you kind of partnered your music along with, because the one thing that I've definitely noticed with TikTok is, like, if I just post me personally, and I may just not be any good, but just posting music stuff, people are not super interested. They're interested in greater than just, here's my new song, check it out. They're like, okay, that's exactly 10 views, whatever. But, like, how have you kind of partnered that with your strategy and just your general feel? And when you're thinking about TikTok, social media, like, what's your approach to it these days?
Yeah. Well, I will say that, again, just like my journey and my fans of putting out inauthentic songs, people are smart. They can see through if you're not doing something from the heart or if you're enjoying yourself. So literally, step number 1 of TikTok is do things you enjoy. Like, don't try and be somebody else. Don't try and do someone else's funny. Do your own funny. Like, and that's the thing about TikTok. It's like, you don't know what's going to take off. Like, I'll upload a video that I think is fire and that I put 2 hours into, and it gets no views. And it's like, okay, I can let that deter me and I can let that bring me down, but that's just the enemy at work. And I'm not going to do that. But then the next day, I don't even think about a video because I'm like, I feel inspired to do it. And it's boom, it just takes off. Like, that's the thing about TikTok. Like, there's definitely a method to the madness. Like, since January, I've probably been posting like 4 to 6 videos a day, and it's been truly exhausting, but it's paid off.
Yeah.
But it's a bunch of testing. Like, I'm still in a testing phase. I don't know what'll work. It's creativity. But I do think with my theater background, with my over the topness, like my TikTok really works for me because it's just, I get to flex my acting. I get to be funny. I get to talk about my music, and I get to be deep. Like I love being all of those colors. And TikTok for me personally, like I was just in the beginning, I was just trying to be funny and do things that I enjoyed and try to do it consistently. So I tried to be inspired, for most of the day. But during the pandemic, I had time to do that because we all were bored and trying to figure out what our next step was in life. So I'm glad for silver lining of 2020 is that I had time to dive into TikTok and dive into what my voice was. But again, it's transparency and authenticity. Like I was already on the path of doing so much work to find out who I was again, that I was starting to really get just honestly like powered up in prayer and with the Holy Spirit and just asking God to come into my career. And like, what do you want my TikTok to be? I don't know. Like just being so open to him guiding what I was supposed to talk about. And the music piece didn't really, there's a lot of people talk about on TikTok, like be careful when you go, like, do you really want to be careful about when you go viral? Because is it really what you want to be viral for? You know what I mean? Like when you go viral, you get an influx of fans, but had I gone viral for like a weird cooking video, I suck at cooking. I don't like it. It's not what I want to do. So why would I have nothing to serve these fans if all they want is cooking videos, right? Yeah. So luckily it was like, honestly, I just feel like this is God's humor. Like I put my video out of my testimony and I went from like 60,000 fans to like 108. Like it was just wild. Wow. Like it was, the video's at like almost 6 million views now. And it's like so much hate. Like that was probably my first experience of like social media dragging and hate, because like it for some reason it like hit believers and then it hit atheists and then it hit Satanists. So it's like literally people came out to play and it was terrifying. But it's, it's like be intentional and do things on TikTok that you really actually enjoy to do. Like do things that you think are funny, study people, but at the end of the day, you have to do things that you enjoy doing. I mean, that's really it. That's how people are successful. There's no real method to the madness other than doing exactly what you want to do and what brings you joy. And the music piece for me, when that testimony video went viral, I was like, oh my goodness, God's already given me spiritual songs to push. Like the story made sense. And so when I uploaded Women at the Well, boom, it took off because it's just, I had this influx of believers / people questioning, and it just, again, like God just makes things make sense. It's like, okay. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah. High five in the sky.
Yeah, exactly. Boom.
Yeah. And I think, there's so much there because, we're all looking for, okay, what do I need to post? What trend do I need to do so that I can get, huge? But like, just like what you said, the only way to sustain is to do what you love. Otherwise, you just don't care. You can fake it for a while. You could make 50 cooking videos if you really, really wanted to, but eventually you're gonna be like, I hate this. I'm not doing this anymore. So the most repeatable thing is the thing that we're most passionate about. So like what you're saying is figure out how to do the thing that you would do anyways, and then figure out how to like brand that and push it out. So like, what would you say? Because this probably be interesting for people. Like, what's the percentage of like actual music post to non-music post on your, obviously people know you're a music artist, but how much music are you actually putting out there?
Honestly, for probably the first 6 months, it was very, very rarely music. It was funny videos. I wasn't even really talking about my spiritual life. much. Like I wasn't doing my I call them my deep talks. I wasn't doing any of that. And then again, it's like a testing period. It's like, okay, let me start talking about my testimony. Let me start talking about Jesus and see how people react. And I mean, it just like I uploaded the video, I'll never forget, and like maybe 15 minutes later I checked back and it was like, what is happening? This is insane. This is crazy. Like it literally it was my first viral moment. Like it just was like, you don't expect it because I was just trying to be truthful. I was trying to just honestly and openly talk about what I wanted to talk about. But then after again, I taking clues from what people want to hear on TikTok. It was in line with where my music was going. It was almost like God just illuminated the path. He's like, I've given you everything you need to do. So just be you and keep doing your thing and keep talking about me and keep talking about your testimony and keep talking about your music and how you got there. And I was like, okay, God, like I can do that all day. Where I struggle actually now is pushing my songs that aren't about God. Like I struggle talking about that stuff, even though I'm passionate about it and it's going to be on my record. Like the songs that Woman at the Well, I Let the Devil In, You Got Me, like songs that feel like I can bring God back in like to the picture and I can talk about God and how he got me here and got me through a lot of my hard stuff. It's resonating with me right now. So I don't know. It's probably a lot heavier. The last 6 months, probably it's a little hack and trick from some TikTok people that I've got in my arsenal. They were like, if something hits, just keep reposting it. Keep reposting the music. Keep reposting the same video. There's tricks to the trade for sure. But again, you can't replace authenticity with those tricks because the tricks are only there to just kind of bump it up even more so a little bit. But like the fruit has to be there. The goodness has to be there. The root of it has to be there. But yeah, I would say it's a lot more heavy music now, but it's music relating to my relationship with God because that's what my fans want to see. And who am I to say, no, y'all don't, I'm going to do something totally different. It's like, no, I'm going to chase what's working.
Right. Yeah. And that takes a lot of discipline though, and self-control, because a lot of people are like, this is what I want you to see. You're going to love it because I love it. So here it is. But that does not translate to anything. Like you said, you have been trying a lot of things, and then all of a sudden it's like, boom, this testimonial video just like shot up. And then you can that's your new filter. Everything kind of can point back to that, whether it's a song, whether it's a personal, whatever it is, but that's like your main thing because that's what worked for right now, and again, as you develop, but you're not being like, no, I don't want to be about that. That's just one part. Like, if you are blessed enough to get viral videos and reach a lot of people, millions of people, we have to be like, okay, God, this is how you want to use this to shine a light in this darkness, because we know that TikTok, honestly, the first time I opened TikTok last year, I was like, dude, I'm not like, this scares me, I didn't, but obviously that's not the whole story. We have to be a light in this dark world in general. And if social media, it's fine, but you are being aware of that and then building the rest around it, not just being stubborn to be like, no, I'm just going to do it once. And yeah, I love that, posting multiple times, the same video, if it worked once, like that's how TikTok, it's all algorithm. Algorithm doesn't care if you post. I mean, I don't think you can post the same video 100 times in a row, but you can spice it in there. We've done that with a few videos and it's worked in the same way. So I love that.
Yeah.
And two, not just making it all about trying different things. It's not like, okay, here's me playing a song. Here's me playing another song. Oh, this isn't working. I'm going to keep doing it until it works. It doesn't. Now, there is something to be said to trying things more than once for sure. But you also have to check the data. And that's the thing. Like you said, I love the testing terminology. Like every post is like testing to see what people are looking for from me and what works, and just running with it when you find that thing and not just getting stuck, because I think people get stuck. They're like, I'm going to do this and that's it. And then, oh, this app's stupid, no, because you can reach millions of people and from your phone, it's crazy.
It's truly incredible. I mean, at the beginning of the year, I was like, no more spending money on ads on Facebook and we're done, because
Yeah.
I've got this app where it's completely free. Like you, as a small business owner, I can't see a reason why you wouldn't try to make TikTok work, because I mean, I have proof. Like, I uploaded Woman at the Well. I had 81 pre-saves, and that was just from pushing on my Instagram, social media. 2 days after that video going, like, I had a minute of my music video go like semi-viral. 1,900 pre-saves in 2 days.
Wow.
Major labels are asking for 1,500. Like, that's their target number. And it's like, okay, so now I'm able to start like getting data for if I do get signed by a label one day. It's like, here's the facts. Here's the songs you should push. Like, here's where I see myself. And if this isn't where you see it, bye-bye. Like, I've got information now where I'm like, no, this is what's working. Like, there's nothing for you guys to have to test or this or that. It's like, we've got facts here. Like, it's working. So get on board or not. Yeah. Sorry, my AirPod just dropped out. 1 second.
It's okay. It happens.
Those pesky AirPods. But yeah, I mean, it's such a brilliant Wild West app right now that it's like, I mean, I saw this one woman do this really, really engaging thing. She told the kind of a plot line of this really engaging story. And she's like, if you want to know the ending, order my book now. And like, literally her book skyrocketed. It's like, it is, if you can get people to help you, and I have a team, like, let's not be, this isn't all me. Like, I have a digital manager who is so on his A game, and he has given me, he's like subscribing to all of these different TikTok analysts. And he's like, hey, okay, so do this today, do that today. Here's a trending thing. Like, I got to the point where I needed help. So, in order for me to be prolific, but also be able to like be in the studio and not stress out about TikTok and be engaged on other things. So definitely there are people, you need to like get people to help you because you can't do it alone. But yeah, I mean, it's been wild. It's an amazing app. I can't talk more amazing things about it because it's just,
yeah, it's a game changer, right?
Yeah.
That never, it's funny because I could post something in Reels or whatever, or Instagram, whatever. And it's like, hey, you got 120 views. That's awesome. And then TikTok could be like 50,000 views. It's like the same exact video. It's silly to not at least experiment with it to see what could work. So I love that. So we've talked about, Woman in the Well a bit, but I'd love for you to kind of, talk about that song. I know that you just had another song come out, but just if you could kind of talk through Woman at the Well. You said, did you write it with Steve Fee, or he produced it, or what was that like?
Yeah. So I wrote the song with Jesse Reeves and Steve Fee.
Awesome.
And I mean, Jesse's like a force to be reckoned with in his own right.
The Reverend Reeves.
The Reverend Reeves. He is so wonderful. I love him to pieces. But Steve, I actually met doing season 1 of Songland, which we just became super fast friends because we would film during the day, but then all of the songwriters would be at the hotel bar, like after just talking about what they went through. And so me and Steve really resonated. And like we talked about, and I was so hungry to talk about Jesus at the time, and he loves Jesus too. So I was just like, tell me everything you know, like, let's talk about Jesus. Let's talk about music industry, la, la, la. And 2 years go by. And I knew that me and him would eventually create, but I think God needed to take me on a path to get more rooted and blah, 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 because Steve's just been in his block for a really long time. And we finally got a date on the books. And we wrote this one song called Lois Lane that's going to be on my record, and it's going to be out in a few more months. But we had a second write and wrote with Jesse on Zoom because he lives in Austin. And I went to Steve, and we wrote this. I came in with this idea because I had recently done a Bible study on the Woman at the Well. And simultaneously, I also think there's an amazing series called The Chosen that is on their season 2 right now. And it's a fantastic depiction of Jesus's life, finding his disciples. It is an incredible show. Every single believer should watch it. It's so wholesome and wonderful and fabulous. But that episode of season 1, the last episode, that it's the story of the woman at the well. It's Jesus meeting the woman at the well. And so simultaneously, I was thinking on those things, watching those things, and really hearing about the woman at the well. And I was like, oh my goodness, like that is me. Like I resonate with the story so much. And I had this idea to write about it. So I brought it in and I was like, guys, I want to write a song about the woman at the well, but I know nothing about Christian music and I want to write it from just a real human standpoint, that like, I'm broken, I'm flawed, Jesus met me in my mess, and that's the story. And they were like, we love it. So we wrote the song. We knew it was something special, but again, like it was such a pivot for me to be so bold about my love for Jesus. Like it had not been something I'd sang about. It really wasn't anything that I was kind of talking about either. So that song really changed everything for me because it was so natural. And for all the people I played it for, it resonated, even if they weren't believers. So I was like, this is really interesting. And then when it came out this year on April 9th, I mean, talk about a song that's like, it just keeps growing and taking on a life of its own and resonating. And it's just, I feel honored to be a vessel, to be honest. Like I just, like all of the hard times that I've been through are amounting to this song and this moment. And I'm just so blessed. Like I'm just so grateful that Jesus is in my life, because I don't know, the song is just, it's taking on a life of its own. And I know it in my bones that this song is going to change things for me, but also just lead people to the Lord. It's like the coolest thing. I mean, I'm getting emails and messages and like, I can't even, like, it's too much for me to keep up with, because people are searching for meaning. They're searching for what I have found in Jesus. They're searching for that peace and that joy. And, you know, it's a really, really interesting time for me right now, because I'm just seeing a song again, kind of take on a life of its own. And I'm just so thankful. I love Jesus so much.
That's so awesome. You know, it's like one of the famous quotes from Tony Wood. It's the gift of songwriting is trying to tell the ancient truth through a fresh window, and so that's exactly what you guys did, because we all, anybody who knows the Bible at all knows the woman at the well, and maybe not even knows the Bible. It's a famous story in history, So to be able to put legs to that, put melody to that, and tell testimony through it, it's just like, it's so well done, and it doesn't surprise me, because what a great team of writers. Geez, that's amazing. So it's no surprise to me that song is doing what it's doing, and it's perfectly placed, like we've been talking about. God's provision is just there. All of the things you've gone through, all the things you've done, all the social media stuff, everything is all kind of leading up to just propelling this song to reach out and, touch the world, literally touch the world, not even in a cheesy way. Like it literally is able to do that. And so that's, leading towards the record and then future records. And two, like you said, you have a bit of a internal struggle or whatever with the songs that aren't necessarily so God-centric on the record, but this is transitional for you too. Like that's life. So like not every song is going to be like, God is the best thing ever, and that's it. I mean, look at the Psalms. There's like some really sad, dark things there. So like that's just how life goes, So like people need that. It can't all. Honestly, too. Like I'm not hating on it, but a lot of times, especially older, like CCM, it's like everything was so happy. It was like if I feel bad, I can't listen to it because I can't connect at all.
Well,
but like
it's like we're deconstructing, and I feel blessed to be kind of maybe part of this movement, like deconstructing that perfect Christian. Like the church should not be for holier than thou people. The church should be for the sick. The church should be for the people committing adultery. The church should be for the people who need to repent, who need to be surrounded in love. It should be for atheists. It should be for people like me, who were very open and very curious and very, like all the believers. When I was going through my transition of like atheist to believer, every single believer in my life was just so loving. And I feel so grateful for that, because they let me know that they love Jesus, but they didn't push it on me. They didn't say, like, this, you must do this and shame on you. Like it, it was like, it, it's just, listening. And now as I'm starting to dive deeper into worship music, just because I'm kind of growing in my walk and I feel like I need that.
Mm.
I hear some songs and I'm like, wow, that's amazing. That's great. And then I hear some other songs that I'm like, really? Like that's big right now. Like that's like, I definitely there is a use for some worship songs like that.
Mm-hmm.
But what about all the broken people in the Bible?
Mm.
There are no perfect people in the Bible except Jesus. Like
Yeah.
literally, like everyone is so flawed and so imperfect and that's the point. Like how did we get here? Like how did we get to this like holier than thou? Anyway, I could talk about it all day. But
Yeah.
I feel blessed because I'm in this Bible study with women where they're undoing a lot of wrong teaching and
Mm.
they're relearning a lot. I mean, they're in their 50s and 60s, so they grew up in the church, but kind of grew up with like the shaming and the wounding of the church.
Mm.
And so now they're undoing a lot, and I'm learning a lot as they're undoing because I knew nothing. So I'm just like, as I'm learning about the Bible and getting rooted, I'm like, wait a minute. So what did you believe before, or
Mm.
what were you taught? And they're like,
Yeah.
well, I mean, blah 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 blah. And I'm like, what? That's crazy. Like that's just wild. But we're human, we're flawed, and we live in a broken world. So it's back to that.
Yeah. I mean, we're walking in it, right? And I love
Yeah,
it because, all of this too is fueling future music for you,
yeah,
like, and not that you're harvesting your life just for songs, but I mean, I feel like real legit artists, it's songs and life are no different. It's an extension. It's just you're encapsulating this moment in time of your life into
yeah,
good or bad, So I feel like that is the real songwriter, artist. It's just you're just literally sharing your life through your songs, and you're doing that. So that's why it's resonating with people because there's no borders. There's nothing for them to fight through to get to you. They just have to listen, and this is where you are. This is who you are, and they probably connect because they're going through the same exact thing. So I totally get
yeah.
that, and I really appreciate your honesty in that. And I know that there's a lot of things, but I always ask people for a piece of advice to give to their younger selves, and I bet you there's a lot. But anything that comes to mind that you'd say to your younger self and anyone listening to encourage them on their journey?
Just take the time to figure out who you are,
Mm.
and just keep taking the next right step. I mean, I feel like so many people, I would get frustrated when people would say, just be yourself. And I'm like, I am. I'm doing it. Like, what do you mean? Like, I don't know what that means. Like, and as I've gone through just what I've gone through, being yourself takes so much work. It
Mm.
takes an insane amount of work. And so I understand why people stay in kind of their limited view of themselves because it's really hard work. It's really hard work to um, disassemble what you've thought about yourself for so long, or uh, the narratives you've been telling yourself of who you are and where you belong. And but like there's so much access to a beautiful level of peace and understanding and joy. Um, Not that life gets any easier, but it definitely gets more manageable the more rooted and truthful you become to yourself. So I would just say get in therapy, learn about yourself, become best friends with yourself, because that's truly when everything started to shift for me because I realized I didn't know who I was. And how could you? Like in your, some people are blessed and they know exactly who they are and la la la, but for me, like I just was a mess. And so I leaned into the mess and I just
Mm.
tried to pick up the pieces, as many as I could.
I mean, if we all were extremely self-aware, then I wouldn't hear from everyone that we all deal with the comparison issues
Yeah.
because that's the result of not being ourselves. And we all do it. I do it. We do it,
Yeah.
like, but that's a result of us worrying about, are we going to be cool enough because they're super cool? So I need to be like them, or else what I do doesn't have any value. But like what you're
Yeah.
saying is by figuring out who you are, and whatever that takes, therapy, prayer, both,
Yeah.
all, everything, then the real thing comes out that people are actually craving, not your best version of that cool thing,
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's the most important thing as a human being, but especially as an artist, because if you weren't doing that, Woman in the Well wouldn't exist, right?
Nope. Not at all.
And it wouldn't have impacted all the people it's impacting. And even beyond that, your testimony video wouldn't have happened, setting the trajectory, opening the door for that, and like you said, it's terrifying when all those crazy trolls are out there that, especially in your big video where it's like they're fighting and it's like, what is happening in the comments? This is scary,
I'm like, wait a minute. I'm happier in my life. What is the problem here? I'm delusional and I'm on drugs. What? Yeah. Okay.
But even with that, like they're drawn, because I feel like we're all drawn to God, whether we know it or not, atheist, Satanist, whatever it is, we all know that's the thing, but we try to fight it,
Yep.
And so those people are showing up in your comments and battling whatever they're doing. But ultimately it's because they're drawn to the truth that you spoke at the beginning and starting that whole conversation. So
right.
That's just what we got to keep doing, right?
Exactly. Be a light in a dark world.
Bam, mic drop. So
mic drop.
Yeah, bam. I wish I could have sound effects. I guess I could act on
you need like the pew, pew, pew. There you go.
Yeah, the hog horn or whatever it's called. The trill horn, that's what it's called. Yeah.
Yeah.
I might do, who knows, might get crazy. But anyways, all that aside, this has been great. It's been awesome to connect. And like we talked about before, it really is a small world. You always hear that, but truthfully, I mean, we talked about knowing probably 10 people. We didn't even try. So of the same
Wonderful.
people. So yeah, it's awesome how God does that. But as people want to connect with you, as I'm sure they will, like what social media platforms do you hang out on? And then, Woman at the Well, you said a new song come out too. So, feel free to promote yourself and let people know they can connect with you.
Yes. So you can go follow me at Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at Olivia Lane Music. I preferably like TikTok if you really want to get to know me, because I'm just a crazy person on there. But yeah, I mean, olivialane.com, you'll find links to my music on all of my social media pages. And yeah, I'm coming out with a song every month. It was every 2 weeks, but that became a little crazy. But I'm having a new record called Heart Change out, due later this year, like September 2021. So I'm hard at work in the studio getting all those songs done, but I'll be coming out with a song every month. So just came out with Sweet Sister, and Woman at the Well was right before that. So go check it out. Olivia Lane on Spotify, iTunes. Is iTunes even a thing anymore? I don't even know. But Amazon, all the things.
Yeah, Apple Music, iTunes. It's all still there. It's just, Spotify's the king of the game, but it's all there. So wherever you listen to music, Olivia's there. So awesome. And I'll link all that below too. Yeah. She's waiting for you to listen. So you better go do it.
Yeah. Come on. And then DM me and let's have a convo.
There it is. There's your invitation, people. Take her up on it. So
there you go.
Yeah, this has been great. And before we go, I always like to pray over everybody. So I'm going to pray for you before we go. God, thank you so much for Olivia. Thank you so much for her heart and her vulnerability and her just openness to following where you're leading, God. And like we talked about a bunch, that's not always pretty, God. And there's some dark days and there's some crazy things that happen, God. But ultimately, that's what life is. So as we continue to walk towards you, God, just clear the path for her. And like we talked about, illuminate those lanes that you're looking for her to reach people through, God, whether it's through the TikTok videos or whatever. We know that you're in control of everything, even the TikTok algorithm, God. So let those things continue to go out and impact people for you, God, as she's going through a journey and sharing openly with people, that they will come to know you through her music, her personality, and everything that she's doing, God. We thank you for this conversation today, and we pray that it brings light and encouragement to others. In your name we pray. Amen. We want to help reach as many Christian indie artists and songwriters as possible, and one way we can do that is with your help. So if you could take a minute and leave us a review on iTunes, that would be so appreciated. This is how the iTunes algorithm will push this content out to more and more Christian indie artists and songwriters. So like I said, if you could just take a couple seconds, leave us a review, that would be so awesome, means so much to us, and we would really appreciate it.